Hey friends, welcome to the American Slang podcast, where we will explore language and culture in different regions of the United States. Slang is a type of informal language that's typically spoken in a certain area or by a group of people. Culture is dynamic, language is dynamic, and in this podcast, we will explore the connections between them and the way new words and expressions emerge in different places in the United States. I'm Anne. I'm an online English teacher and I specialize in exam preparation. You can find more out about my courses and classes on my website. And in today's interview, we are focusing on West Coast slang. I interview Helen, a native Californian who tells us some incredible stories and shares some slang words from her neck of the woods in the Bay Area. So without further ado, let's get started with today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we will be talking with Helen about West Coast slang. Helen grew up in California, and she lives there now as well. She lives in the Bay Area. She studied ethnic studies at UC Berkeley, and she's going to tell us a little bit about some common slang words that you would hear in the Bay Area and in California. So let's get started. Helen, tell us a little bit about maybe you could just introduce us and let us know about your work. Tell us about the kind of work that you do.
Sure, yeah. Well, so I work in social services. Unfortunately, where I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, there is a huge population of people who are unhoused, and it's a massive problem. And so I work with an organization that works with families that are unhoused. And so for the last 3.5 years, I've been a case manager working with families who are transitioning out of homelessness into housing, providing case management to help them stabilize while we provide a rental subsidy. And now I'm moving into a new role where I'm going to help build out partnerships with other organizations to provide more comprehensive services for the families who are working with us.
Yeah, so the Bay Area is such a dynamic place. There's huge problems, right? Social issues that you kind of work with and deal with on a day-to-day basis, but there's also great creativity, right? And we see linguistic creativity and we see cultural diversity. So I think that kind of is a unique aspect of the city, right?
Yeah, it's a really fascinating place to live. It's surrounded by so much natural beauty just in every single direction. There are different incredible parks and just stunning places to go camping and hiking and kayaking. And then the cities are really interesting too. You know, it all kind of is centered around San Francisco, but then the whole surrounding area, there are so many people in all these surrounding cities, and there's just a lot going on. So many, people from so many different countries, and a lot of different languages spoken, a lot of art, a lot of universities, students coming, and yeah, it's a really interesting place.
And that's part of what you love about living there, right? Just you're never bored, right? There's always interesting things to help, like you're a part of many organizations, and so that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, today we want to kind of get into some slang words that are typically used on the West Coast and in California. So let's get started with the first one, which is hella, right? Tell us a little bit about the word hella, where you would hear it, or in what kind of, context.
Hella is a classic California word. It means very or a lot of. So you could say, there are hella people here. You could also say, there are hella, and that would mean there are a lot. You could say this is hella good. It's used in a lot of different ways. It's really funny because my name is Helen, and when I first moved to the Bay Area, I thought I was hearing people call my name all the time, but they were saying hella. So I was always turning around because I thought people were saying Helen.
That is a hilarious story. Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that hella originates from African American vernacular English. and which is an important dialect of English that is very influential in the English language, especially American English. And so I don't know the specific history of it, but I'm pretty sure that that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And Oakland is across the bay from San Francisco, and it is a historically Black city with a lot of like really amazing Black culture, and so a lot of African American vernacular English has kind of permeated the language of the Bay Area.
That's really helpful to know. And you would say, for example, if you use hella in a sentence, you would just say like, oh, it's hella good. It's a hella good movie, or right?
It's hella cold outside.
It's hella cold. And could you use hecka if you didn't want to say hella? Like if you're against using the word hell, right? You would say hecka good.
Yeah, so that's one that people also use. I've heard it, especially like around kids when people don't want to say the word hell.
Right.
So they say hecka. So you use it the same way, but it usually kind of cracks me up. And then sometimes people say heck of. Just like
to be funny, they would say that's of good.
Just like they are weird.
Yeah. But you can kind of play around with it, and it could be kind of funny, creative, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people say it all the time.
Yeah.
For so many different reasons. You could say like, oh yeah, I was like looking at this ant colony and there were just hella. Or something like that.
Really? Yeah. So it's just kind of cutting it off, but saying a lot more just in one word.
Yeah, you can use, it can just mean a lot,
Okay. Yeah, I definitely heard that all the time. I didn't feel ever very comfortable using it just because, to me, it sounded so strong, right?
Because it's a bad word.
Oh, no! I would be like, that is very nice. Okay, so that is hella. Okay, and the next word we're going to talk about is gnarly. This is a quintessential California word,
Definitely.
Right? Gnarly. This comes from the surfer slang in the 1960s. It used to describe a wave that was very messy, gnarly, curly waves for surfers that were difficult to ride. So it's used nowadays to describe something that's really cool, right? Or no?
So it's interesting because it can either be used for like to mean really excellent or cool or interesting, or really bad. So it can be really good or really bad.
Yeah, that's a good point. It could be either way.
So you could say, I just took a test and it was gnarly. Like that was a really hard test. Or you could say, this we had a gnarly time going to the beach, or we had a gnarly time doing something. It just depends. You have to listen to context clues to figure out what it means. It's not used as much now as it was, I want to say like in the 70s or 80s or something, but I definitely hear people, I say it all the time.
Yeah, and I think like we were talking before, the slang could be, the retro words could be coming back and used more commonly, right?
Right. And then another thing is, in the Bay Area, it's such a diverse and really liberal community. And so a lot of people are very focused on wanting to make language inclusive of people of like all abilities and genders and sexualities. And so people try to be really creative in coming up with words instead of using like the word crazy, which is, considered like an ableist word because it's derogatory towards people who have mental illness or insane or things like that. Saying gnarly is, that's doesn't have anything to do with anybody's like ability or, race or sexuality or anything like that. So it's kind of like, it's more of a politically correct word.
That makes sense. And also, I know people with mental illnesses that really dislike the word insane or they really hate the word crazy. So I think it's important to be aware of language and how powerful it could be and how it could be, reinforcing certain stereotypes, for example. And
like systems of, structures of oppression.
Yeah, structures of
all
oppression.
the time, yeah.
Yeah, so that's really an interesting point that you make about gender inclusiveness, for example. So do you say you guys in California? Is that commonly said?
In California, I would say yes, but in the Bay Area, most people say y'all or you all or folks. You guys is kind of a no-no, and if you say it, you can sometimes see people like flinch.
Ooh, people like squint at you, be like, what? Yeah. What? You just said you guys?
Because it's, it's gendered. It's referring to like men.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people in the world who are not men. And
right.
So people want to be inclusive of, all genders. And so a lot of people say you all, y'all, what else? Folks. People sometimes spell folks with like Folx.
Oh, interesting spelling of folks. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure why, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. But before you moved to the Bay Area, you used you guys, but then after you realized, oh, wow, I need to start changing my language and say y'all or folks, it's more appropriate, right?
Right. Yeah, because I thought it was just like a Southern thing, but it's also like a term that a lot of queer people use, like people in the LGBTQ community. And yeah, it's just more inclusive. And so now I pretty much I say y'all all the time now.
Yeah, that's wonderful because my grandmother from Mississippi always used y'all. Y'all going to the store, so it's so common in my family. And however, I often say guys, hey guys, hey. So you're bringing up this point that I need to be much more conscious and much more aware of this you guys thing. And I obviously need to change. I want to change my language, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. It's
It's kind of awareness, right? Once you become aware of it, you think, oh, I'll start using a different phrase.
Right.
All right, back to another slang word. So I think the word amped is interesting. And what does amped mean?
Amped just means very, very excited. Yeah, so if it, like, I am here in Spain with you, and I was amped to go on this trip. Yes. And I told everyone I was so amped to come to Spain.
Extremely excited to take a trip or to go to a concert or anything that you're looking forward to doing, right? Amps. And amped, I just want to say that amp could come from a speaker, right? The amplifier on the speaker. Yeah, so it could be like amplifying, noise, for example. So maybe that's kind of the idea, right? Turn up the speakers, we're so excited, right? Turn up the volume. And then also, I guess we were talking a little bit about 420 and what it means, especially in California. The 420 culture. I think the youth may be interested in this 420. What does it mean? Where does it come from?
So 420 means marijuana. And that actually originated in California. I guess there were, I was reading on historychannel.com or something like that there were 4 students in San Rafael, which is very close to where I live. It's about 30 minute drive from where I live. And they heard that there was this farmer who had this like marijuana crop that they had abandoned. And so they would meet every day after practice at 420 to go search for this treasure. And so it like became, and I think that it ended up being like someone from, I want to say the Grateful Dead, one of those bands, ended up hearing it because they were friends or their brother was friends with the band or something. And then it was like on a flyer and then it just really spread. So now 420 means marijuana. It also, in California, April 20th, 420 is like an unofficial holiday. And I went to UC Berkeley, which there's a lot of weed smoked in the Bay Area. It's like way more than cigarettes. You never smell someone smoking cigarettes. It's just like on every street you're walking behind somebody who's like smoking a blunt or something like that.
When I went to Berkeley for the first time, I couldn't believe, I felt like I was breathing air, but it was just marijuana. Like the smell of weed everywhere I went, on every street corner, every sidewalk I was walking down, it was like smoke marijuana. So it was a little bit surprising, right?
So on April 20th, it's like on the UC Berkeley campus, like no one goes to classes in the afternoon, especially, and they all, like this huge group of students, it looks like some sort of a festival, meet up on this lawn, and they all have their hammocks and whatever, and they're just like huge billowing clouds of weed smoke.
And tell
pretty
us
impressive.
about the time your professor, something like that, your professor.
I had a professor, I had a class on the April 20th, and it was in the afternoon because 4:20 on 4:20
Right.
is like when you really get high.
Right.
And my class was during that period, and so there were like 3 of us who showed up
to the class.
and she had invited the speaker to come, and she was so mad that there was no one there. But it was just, they were just doing their thing. They were just...
The professor was slightly forgetful of the
she was like
campus holiday.
British, and she like...
was unaware of the California culture, right? So weed is probably more ubiquitous than alcohol, for example. And
Yeah, I would say, if not more than at least like the same, where I live. I don't know if that's true everywhere in California.
Okay.
But in the Bay Area, definitely there is so much marijuana. There are just dispensaries, which is like a store where they sell it on every corner. And yeah,
you can legally smoke it in public. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can legally smoke it.
Yeah, and there are places where you're not supposed to smoke anything, but people, like for example on the BART train. But I regularly get on BART, and I'm like, oh, someone just smoked an entire blunt in this car. Cool.
Yeah. So I was thinking to myself, wow, where else in the U.S. would you find this kind of open-mindedness, right?
Right.
Because I think, marijuana isn't legal in all states, for example, right?
Yeah. It is, there's like varying levels of legality of marijuana. Like in some states it's like decriminalized, meaning like the police aren't going to come for you, but it's still a federal crime. I mean, it's still a federal crime everywhere, I'm pretty sure. But in California it's like legal, and they're able to like have businesses. And that's also, it's like a huge industry in California.
Right, definitely. I've heard about that. Okay, well, let's go on to another expression, which is yeah, no, no, yeah. And I want to get the intonation of this. Yeah, no? I don't know if it's yeah, no, or no, yeah.
Yeah,
or
no.
Yeah, no. And what means yes, and which one of those means yes, which one means no?
So the last word is what it means. So if you're like, yeah, no.
Then it's like, no.
But if you're just like, no, yeah, I'm interested in that.
No, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it's a way of just agreeing to something or saying...
Yeah, and I have no idea why we do it, but we do it all the time.
So, can you say it one more time? So it's like, yeah, no? No.
Yeah,
no. So your voice intonation goes down.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. And it sounds pretty much like no. You don't want to do that. No.
No, yeah, it means no.
Yeah. And then you'll be like, no, yeah. Oh, okay. So it's kind of a playful way of agreeing or disagreeing to something, right? Like you're down or you're not. Okay. Okay, great. And what about, I don't know if there are any other words that you want to mention. We had talked a little bit about rad. Some of your friends maybe say it, some don't.
I think that's an example of like a slang word that was kind of obsolete and is kind of coming back a little bit. But rad or radical just means like really cool.
Yeah.
And that also comes from like surfer culture, just like gnarly does. But yeah, maybe I just hang out with people who aren't very cool, but I hear people say it all the time.
Yeah, I think it's more common. I think it's coming back, like you said, or it's just never been forgotten.
Right, and I think it's another example of people trying to come up with creative language for, to be inclusive.
For sure, yeah. Okay, well, this has been a delightful conversation about California slang. I've enjoyed talking to you so much about this, and I hope other listeners have benefited from our conversation and have learned a few good slang words.
Awesome.
And maybe become more aware of gender inclusive language, right?
Yeah.
With y'all and folks, right? And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email and we can get back to you.
Yeah. No, yeah.
No, yeah, no? No, yeah. I'm going to have to obviously practice that a little bit. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Helen really helps us think about the importance of becoming more aware and conscious of inclusive language that takes into account people of diverse genders, races, and ability levels. using language that isn't derogatory and that doesn't reinforce structures of oppression. In this interview, we got insight into how powerful and creative language is and how it's constantly transforming and changing based on the dynamic surroundings. Be sure to follow the podcast so you can get notifications when new episodes are published. We'll be doing episodes on Miami slang, Midwest slang, internet slang, and slang from other regions in the southern states as well. So stay tuned and thank you so much. See you next time.